I'm not saying that everyone who doesn't vote for Kamala Harris to be president of the United States in November is a racist or a misogynist. I'm just saying that if you are not a racist or a misogynist, you have no reason not to vote for her. So here we are. It's July 21st, 2024. It's a little bit after 5:30 in the afternoon, Eastern Standard Time, as I sit here recording this. And a few hours ago, President Joe Biden triggered a political earthquake by announcing that actually he's thought about it, and it turns out he's not going to be the Democratic nominee for president this year. He's going to continue to serve as president and finish out his term, but he will not be the Democratic nominee, and he has handed that baton down to his vice president, Kamala Harris. And now it falls to us, the voters, the people of the United States, to do the most important thing and to show up on November 5th and to vote for Kamala Harris to be the next president of the United States. Because the choice that we face is basically the same choice we faced before Biden dropped out. It's either the Democratic nominee or it's Donald Trump. The Democratic nominee, unless something truly seismic happens between now and the convention, the Democratic nominee will be Kamala Harris. So it's either Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. And I'm sorry, but if you think that is a choice that even requires a moment's thought, I'm not really sure what you're doing watching my video. Like, we have nothing in common. There's nothing here for you. If you think that you have to even put, I don't know, should I vote for Trump or should I vote for Kamala Harris? If you have to even think about it, there's probably another YouTube channel that you should be watching right now, because this whole thing that I do here, this is not for you. You're not going to find much of interest here, because it's unfathomable to me that anybody could be presented with, okay, you can either vote for Kamala Harris or you can vote for Donald Trump. And they would actually have to go, well, gee, let me think about this. Come on. As is always going to be the case with any candidate, Kamala Harris is not a perfect candidate. But I'll tell you what, she's a goddamn good candidate. There were times when I was watching that terrible debate last month between Trump and Biden, where Biden was struggling to put a couple of sentences together, and Trump was just stomping all over him with this fire hose of bullshit that he was spraying across the stage and directly into the camera, unchallenged, for the most part unchallenged by Biden, completely unchallenged by the useless moderators. And I was thinking to myself, my God, if only Kamala Harris was on this stage instead of Joe Biden. If only Joe Biden, with his diminished communicative capacity as a result of age and illness, if only he had stepped aside and Kamala Harris were standing here, a referee would have to come in and stop this fight. There isn't a referee. The moderators aren't acting as referees. The moderators are just acting as facilitators. Somehow, Mills Lane would have to come in and stop the fight. People would be wondering, where the hell did Mills Lane come from? What is he even doing here? He would materialize off stage, and he would have to come in and stop the fight and pull Kamala Harris rhetorically off of Donald Trump and say, it's over, because she would have murdered him. She would have murdered him in that debate. Anybody with the truth on their side and a decent command of the issues at hand and strong communication skills would have murdered Donald Trump. And Kamala Harris has all of those things. And she has all of those things plus something else incredibly important, and that is a record to run on that she can be proud of. Right after Biden put out his announcement that he was stepping aside as the candidate and that he was throwing his support behind Kamala Harris, I saw a tweet from Donald Trump Jr., where he said, this is great because Kamala Harris, she owns the Biden record. Everything that Joe Biden has done for the last 4 years, she owns that record. And the response from all Democrats and all liberals and all progressives to that statement from Don Jr. should be, you're goddamn right she does. Because unless you are delusional or dishonest, that record, that Biden-Harris record these last 4 years is something to be proud of and something to run on and something to tout and say, if you want 4 more years of this, then vote for Kamala Harris. Because despite what doofus Donald Trump and his dipshit kids and all of the rest of their lying, pathetic surrogates and mouthpieces have said over the past several months about Joe Biden's presidency, it has not been disastrous. It has not dragged this country to the brink of collapse. It has not resulted in millions of criminals and escaped mental patients from South America flooding across our borders. It has not resulted in an influx of terrorism. Leftist protesters have not burned cities, and all of these deranged, utterly deranged, completely invented things that Republicans have accused the Biden, first of all, have claimed actually happened, which they didn't even happen, and tried to hang around the neck of Joe Biden. None of that stuff happened. If you're looking at what really happened, if you're looking at reality, the last 4 years, job growth, recovery from a pandemic, not total recovery. And I know that's one of the sticking points with a lot of people in Biden, is that Biden has spoken about our recovery from the pandemic as being a lot more complete than it is. COVID is still kind of out there and is still a problem, and we should be taking it more seriously right now than we currently are. But things are certainly a hell of a lot better now than they were when Biden took office. And his administration's management of the pandemic has been light years ahead of what the Trump administration was doing, which a lot of the time seemed like next to nothing or nothing at all. So recovery from the pandemic, recovered strengthened economy, student loan debt forgiveness, response to climate change. Again, not as much as I would have liked, not as progressive, not as strong as I or a lot of other people would have liked, but more than we would ever have gotten under Donald Trump and more than we have gotten under any other president. The first significant new federal gun laws passed in decades. Again, not nearly as far-reaching and as strong as I would have liked. If you pay attention to my stuff, you know that gun control and gun violence in the United States is one of my pet issues. It's one of the things that makes me the angriest of any political or social issue. There's no excuse for the amount of gun violence we have in this country. There's no excuse for the sheer number of guns that we have in private hands in our population. The laws that the law that Biden signed that was passed under his administration, not nearly enough, not nearly as far-reaching as I would have liked, but more than anybody has gotten done in a hell of a long time. And that has been the story of the Biden administration. Is it sufficient? Hell no. Is it more than we would have gotten under Trump? Hell yes. Is it more than we have gotten under a lot of previous Democratic administrations? Again, surprisingly, hell yes. He has been an incredibly effective president. President Biden has. Yes, you're goddamn right that Kamala Harris owns that record, and she should own that record, and she should carry it like a banner across this country and say, don't listen to what these liars and criminals are trying to tell you about what we've done these last 4 years. Listen to the truth, then elect Kamala Harris president of the United States, and even more importantly, give her backup in Congress. Elect Democrats to a majority in the House and elect Democrats to a larger majority in the Senate, and we can actually get some shit done around here. It's all hands on deck. Now more than ever, I have said ad nauseum, and a lot of other people a lot smarter than me and a lot with much larger followings and louder bullhorns than me have said it, but I'm going to say it again and get used to hearing it from me, because I'm going to say it again after this quite a few times between now and November, and it's this: when we show up, we win. Democrats, liberals, progressives, leftists, whatever category we identify with, however we sort ourselves out, all of us here on the left of center half of the political spectrum, when we show up, we win. And our mission right now is very simple and straightforward, and it involves all of us. Elect Kamala Harris, President of the United States. Go into this election in November and vote Democrat down the ticket. Not third party, not vanity candidate, not Jill Stein, not Robert Kennedy. Vote for Kamala Harris. Vote for Democrats in every race up and down the ballot. Elect Democratic majorities, and we will see real progress, and we will see real things happen for the good in this country over the next 4 years. And you know what? Even if we don't, even if I'm being a little pie in the sky and I'm being a little too optimistic, you know what we won't see? We won't see the end of democracy. We won't see what we will see if we get another Trump administration. And you know what else we'll see? I will guarantee you this. If Kamala Harris and whoever she chooses as her running mate gets elected president in November and becomes president in January of 2025, and most especially if we give her significant Democratic support in Congress, if all of that happens, I guarantee you something else will happen that I can't guarantee you will happen if Trump wins. And that is, we will have another presidential election in 2028. Do you want to have that be a thing that continues to happen? Then on November 5th or before, if you vote early, or like me and you vote by mail, whenever you participate in this general election this year, vote for Kamala Harris, vote Democrat. It's all hands on deck because we need to win this one. But when we show up, that's what happens. We win. So let's get to work.